Josh.
Hey, Victor. How are you?
Thank you. Fine.
I'm in a
Hey, guys.
today, so.
Hey. An ego debating KubeCon. So many years.
Colleague of mine, well, I don't know if I should mention since we're recording. I just had a colleague come over to GitLab, so I mentioned you, Victor. Look out for you.
You mean you came over to GitLab or from GitLab?
Someone from Red Hat just went to GitLab,
To GitLab.
so told him to look out for you. He's
Cool.
app
Looking
delivery
forward
guy.
to it. Nice.
Hello, everyone. As usual, let's give people some time to join in here.
How you doing, Alois?
Good. Back-to-back meetings this week, but the sun is shining outside, which is great, but not helpful.
You're inside.
Yeah, let me also post the agenda for today. If I can find it. Sorry. Here we go. Yeah, I also added the agenda for the next meeting because I already have some agenda items that came up, like 2 project presentations. So let me ping Thomas, who actually should start on the operator white paper where he is. There, see, that's how we do it. That's how we do it. That's
manifestation. That's
exactly
what that's called.
I want to have a Thomas joining in for the first agenda item.
I want $1 million. Oh, no, didn't work.
Well, you have to start small, yes, you know,
Yeah.
gradually work your way in the right direction. All right. Yeah, while we're waiting, we have, I think, some new people joining in here. I think, Daniel, it's your first time. At least I can't, unless you have been there when I was there last time. We usually give new members the opportunity to introduce themselves in the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thanks for being calling out. Yeah, so my name is Daniel. This is my first time joining this group, and I'm working for Red Hat as the technical marketing major as well as develop advocate. So one of the interesting part I wanted to join this group. I don't know, I'm not sure. You guys already have heard about the Conveyor project. It's some new open source project to help people to migrate your monolith application to like a cloud level application, as well as the virtual machine to queue some of the stuff. And I'm just wondering if there's something, some kind of interesting part I can contribute this app delivery group along with the Conveyor project. So I just try to go through our Git repository and what kind of stuff you are doing recently, and then maybe it'll be very helpful for me if I join the group and try to understand what you guys are actually doing, and then I try to find out what kind of stuff actually I need to contribute to this group. Yeah, hopefully I'm gonna keep joining unless my existing like a meeting does not conflict with this meeting. By the way, I'm based in Boston.
Okay, 6, yeah. Time zones are important. They should at least.
Yeah, exactly. So last time actually I tried to figure out the meeting time after day saving time stuff.
That's always the worst 2
Yeah,
weeks.
I joined the meeting and then no one actually shows up. Oh wow, it's just maybe I missed the right time.
Mhm.
But today I made it. Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, great. We had some discussions with the Conveyor people in the past already.
Cool.
I have to admit, I don't know the exact status of the sandbox submission, where it's at right now, where it was accepted or not. Eventually, there was a discussion in the last sandbox meeting.
Oh yeah, that is new to me. If I remember correctly, it's still incubator project. But let me check. Let me check. Yeah, with my some of folks the Conveyor team.
All right. So, okay, then let's dive into the, I think, Daniel, is it I'm not sure whether you've been here before, so in case you want to introduce yourself or.
Yes. Hi. I've been a member of the group for a long time, but I haven't been able to come to the meetings. I thought today I'd come. I'm a member of the Operator Framework group, specifically working on OLM. And we are sort of iterating on our APIs and developing some basically some new functionality to deliver content onto a cluster, an entirely new project. And I thought I could come to this group, maybe share that project at some point, and get some ideas about how we can develop those APIs in a more upstream fashion and successfully deliver them. So that's kind of about me.
Okay, great. That actually is a perfect transition into the first actual agenda item, and why we were waiting here for Thomas, one of the authors of the original operator white paper. So with this, I'll hand it over to you, Thomas.
So yes, thank you. So one thing I came across in the last few weeks was that last year we published the first version of the operator white paper, and this was sort of one of such a first step towards a comprehensive thing. And what I just wanted to ask the group here was if we should, you think it would make sense if we would go for a version 2 of the operator white paper, and if you have some proposals, what additional contents could be, and as who would like to contribute. So I think some guys of us, so especially me, and I also think other people have made some new findings regarding operators. For me, it was one funny thing was finalizers and whatever. And I also thought it might be that we have some new people here who want to join the efforts for a new version, and also, yes, if it would make sense. So what do you think about this?
Depends on who you are. Yeah, I think it's a good idea because we like updating these white papers is kind of like a necessity in our line of business, at least. Stuff happens, and obviously there's things that might not have been part of the original white paper that could potentially be very, very useful. Then obviously it's like the bandwidth issue, I guess. We're not that many people. We have already a different white paper in like in the makings, aka not really started yet. So, but I think that will kind of solve itself out, and as long as, you know, if you build it, they will come. So if we start creating a secondary white paper, I think we should be able to get, like, if we build on version 1, so to speak, I think that will work out, right? You know, and I obviously I too want to help with that, to make it better as well. So
I think one of the hardest parts might be to find out what we should add and what makes sense to add in here. But I think as the groundwork for this white paper is already done, it should not be such a large effort as the first step.
it's I think if I remember correctly, there was some sort of feedbacks like in the issues about the white paper, and if there are any still that are kind of not addressed, instead of like doing patch versions of the white paper, we could just as easily go for a version 2, and then get anything that's in issues, GitHub issues, you know, get that in there, but also just you know, go through the list, see what is missing from version 1, and then just you know, build upon what's in version 1, and it shouldn't be that big of a project compared to starting from scratch.
So I also started creating a GitHub issue for that. So I think we can take this offline at some point and discuss this in the GitHub issue and find out until the next meeting if this makes sense.
And Daniel also mentioned the new operator framework project that they are working on there. Yeah, I mean, one thing I don't know how much we covered in the initial one, but that came up in these two conversations that I had is operators and security. Especially, it's just, I'm just deploying something that can be like really funky on my cluster. I mean, you know it as well, Thomas, because in some of those discussions we're together, that people say, I'd rather have a Helm chart that I could read, even if it's 5,000 lines long, versus an operator that does just magic things on my cluster.
That kind of like, that's like GitOps, like magic things. GitOps is magic things. And I was kind of going to mention that as a segue, like I posted a thing that's interesting that operators and GitOps are kind of getting considered together now, because operators kind of facilitate GitOps. So that might be an angle we talk about here. Meaning declarative is kind of magic always. I declare it and somehow it happens.
I think we also dealt with this topic in the first version of the operator white paper, but this was on a very, very high level, I think. So we could go more in depth in there. And I also think there might be more valuable insights there.
Yeah, let's do this, like really collect issues, try to reach out to as many people, like everybody who commented on the initial one, and then also share it on a wider scope. And then just put the topics down there. I'm not sure whether we want to create a dedicated working group. We could, but this is usually maybe a bit of an overhead for working on it.
So I think we could deal with this kind of the tech security does. I think they never create working groups for white papers. They only do some projects which are finished after the white paper is done.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
as long as the issues and stuff in GitHub is there, and we have those kind of discussions, and if then something comes up that needs a bit of like you know, face-to-face discussion, or face-to-screen to face to, you know, whatever, however you want to call that, then you could do like just single meetings on specific topics if it's needed at all. Who knows?
I mean, the most important thing is that somebody is like actively driving this forward, and you kind of volunteered right now. So that's by bringing it up, you kind of volunteer as well. Yeah, and also for everybody here, like again, on whether it's on the Red Hat side or also on the GitLab side, if there's any people who you want to bring in, or obviously if you want to contribute on your side, it might definitely be helpful. I guess obviously you have a lot of operator related knowledge on the GitLab side with everything you do around your Kubernetes operator. Like share it with people and then like get more people involved, which is kind of like what we're trying to generally do anyways.
Yeah, I was, the reason why I'm joining here is to look for such opportunities, so I will do that for sure. I think the best is if I just share the issue with the SREs and they can contribute there.
Okay, then we have an agreement, and I put in there for the day Thomas to drive this. See, I'm volunteering to put you in as a volunteer.
Involuntary volunteer.
Well, I mean, you kind of brought up the topic, so at least, and it doesn't like object at all.
This is why you never speak.
And I know his
anything.
boss actually, so that's also good. That's also helpful in this case.
Yeah.
Yes, so I liked working on this white paper, so I have no problem with this.
Okay, next one on the agenda, update from the cooperative delivery working group. I think this needs a little bit more like discussion as well, obviously, as just the update.
Yeah, I could take a start coming off mute there. So to be honest, it was a rough February. Basically, Robert and I are the only people attending. And we're struggling to, well, we need to orient around something. And we're having trouble getting end user input. The survey that we did on GitHub hasn't been attractive enough. Maybe we should do it a different way. I'm not sure. That's why I'm opening up to the crew, but I also wanted to, I put out one suggestion possibly. I know a lot of other groups have started with a white paper, and that kind of develops the initial hypotheses. I mean, I'd love to not start from nowhere with the hypotheses, so I'd rather get input from users, but maybe now it's time for us to just facilitate a discussion around a paper with a bunch of opinions so that, you know, we have something to start from. Anyway, that's my idea. I wanted to put it out there for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunately a very general observation we have, like putting surveys out there that don't create a lot of traction initially. My key takeaway, like from working in this group where like all of us are doing this on a voluntary basis, is we have to be very clear what is the value for like somebody participating. And the value can be obviously for some companies like sharing their ideas that they have internally. Another one is really like for people learning new stuff that they are interested anyways, and engaging with people who have that knowledge, like a way of like having access to people you otherwise might have a harder time to have access to. So I think we might want to find a way there to talk maybe about some very specific problems, and maybe also starting to actively publish something around this, and not maybe starting with the white paper per se, but individual questions, and then maybe putting some material together that we can share with people and put them in the right direction. Maybe even invite somebody, like if you find somebody who has done something interesting on specific topics, just starting to collect this information, because there's always people who, especially in the DevRel space, who want and kind of need to present on topics anyways based on their role. And there are other people who want to have this information, and by us curating them around the topic, this might be something like very helpful. I mean, another like very straightforward approach would be, if you want to get like people involved, you create a landscape. I mean, landscapes are, well, landscapes. But still, everybody wants to be on that landscape, and we can say, well, for every landscape item, we want to link at least to a short demo what the tool is doing, or something like this. This could also be an opportunity that would at least get you vendors and open source projects to more actively engage with you, because there are still a lot of people who have the goal to be on a landscape. And as much as people say that they're like the worst thing on the planet, at least they draw interest in a certain direction. You just have to kind of use it wisely, to put it that way. And maybe not everything should be a white paper. It could also be just a short article. That's maybe a takeaway for me, like how can we as a working group actually, as a tag, publish a blog post on topics under the CNCF umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
But let me talk to Amy about this and figure out how it works.
That would actually be a thing that I think would be more in line when we're starting to talk about how to do infrastructure and application, together. That sounds more like a little bit longer article maybe, and not a full white paper. And it might be something to kind of like stir up some interest in that topic, and then maybe we will get more responses on things. So and also seeing as the multi-tenant white paper idea is also under the cooperative delivery working group. There will be a lot of work in different work streams. So if we could take some of the ideas that we had originally and have that as an article instead of a full-on white paper or descriptive patterns or whatever, just something a little bit more simpler to get going. And maybe through the working with version 2 of the operator white paper also kind of like gets us in the right spirit for doing white paper stuff, and then we can tackle the multi-tenancy white paper a little more head on, maybe.
By the way, we mentioned it yesterday in the TUC meeting, and there was interest from other people as well, but we could ask them, like, write something on a specific topic. And I remember, like, when I wrote my first book, I did exactly this. I started out with blog posts, lots of them, and then eventually took the blog posts and combined them into like initially a bigger series that wasn't like the perfect book, like it would read like front to end, but it had like very specific chapters on specific topics still. That was, back in the days when we printed books. Well, we still kind of do it today. It was almost like we back then called it like the almanac. That was like the collection of the posts that had the most interest, collected them together, and then had a printed format on it. And it was actually very well received because it was also easier to digest for people, because a book you very often have to read from like front to back. While these kind of things can be consumed, like have now, I don't know, 20 minutes on a train, or I'm waiting at the airport, or whatever situation that you're in, and I'm quickly reading like this short piece that is usually a couple of pages long. Let's try to do this. Let me figure out what the best channel would be. We should then have some consistency there, but I think it's also easier to get people on board for a shorter article than like for like a big white paper project that might run for several months. Like the commitment is much harder. And then we could even decide, if we will think it's a lot of content and we want a professional editor to put it into a more like coherent format, like a book or whatever, then the content basically is there, and it's more or less the editing or the writing that needs to go into that. But I think both ideas are still great, and I'll take this as an action item, like a more general one.
I also think Jennifer already reached out to Amy, but I don't know what the outcome was. So the only thing she said was that it should not be on Medium, as far as I know.
You can do a GitHub page,
yes,
whatever. I don't really care. I just wanted to run it by Amy, because at some point there was a discussion, especially on CNCF published content, because as you might be aware of, or most of you might be aware of, there's also the like commercial arm of the CNCF that's pushing in that direction, like where you obviously pay for like a webinar or something like that, that we might want to obviously handle slightly different over here.
So this is really, so just to sum, I think our general action item for ourselves and anybody here is we want to develop a series of hypotheses here, maybe published in blog posts, tech radar, things like that. And I guess we have a couple that we mentioned in the charter, but there's probably a lot more ideas, because this is kind of an emerging space for us. So I guess communicate with us on Slack or GitHub if you have ideas. I mean, obviously we'll be at the meetings, but I don't have to wait for that.
Yeah, actually, Tag Radar is another one. I don't know whether there's a Tag Radar for App-Delivery that is actually planned. I think this would be the end user group to work with them. And no, Observability did another one. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I take these 2 action items as their action items. I'm putting names there. Yeah, I think from
could perhaps,
yeah.
So could perhaps for a something like a user story hub here, because we were building one here at GitLab, and probably I can share it in some form. It's in Miro right now. There isn't anything very specific, but it just highlights all the many color as well as the kind of stable pattern of moving from dev to production. So I don't know how to share it best, but we can try to do it somehow.
Yeah, I think it would be great if we have like users that like also like the user story that we want to share. We just have to be careful that it's not like really towards event. It isn't seen.
I mean, it's a user story map, so it's not specific users. It's
okay. Yeah.
It's mapping out the user story.
Yeah, I think we can do this the next time, that we can share like a number of ideas that we have and like collect them all together, what we would like to publish.
Okay.
It would be great to see. I mean, if you're open to sharing, I mean, every insight helps. You never know where the next big ideas could come from. So
yeah, I think there's nothing
publicly, but something internally with us. Kind of.
I think like with GitLab, there's nothing in it that would hinder us, as we are a public company and we still try to be transparent as much as we can. So I think I can share it fully. So I think it should be an issue.
Yeah, I think also everything we can share and also ask other people like Chris, who used to be here, to like put it into like a newsletter like DevOps-ish. I think everything we can like have that's easily shareable like on Twitter or other channels is helpful for raising awareness, but obviously it should be value content. I mean, that would be the case here as well. So like a short version of the, for example, cooperative delivery, and maybe like what it is, why it exists. I mean, if you read it, you kind of understand it, but everybody's still kind of like with the name, still having like this hard time, like understand it, what it really is. Yeah, naming is hard. But I think just getting like to more like one of the specific problems and picking it and like sharing ideas and then inviting people to present on those specific topics. I think the gaining momentum is always the hardest one, and it's like more or less acting like a community manager, even like driving some of these activities here is yeah. And I think I think it might change hopefully now a bit, but I think people are a bit over online content right now, and everybody's like looking forward to physical events more again, or at least getting out of their house more, and they're like want to consume content in a more interactive fashion now again.
Yes, very much so. And that's kind of in like the last year or something. Things that used to have 100 people viewing have now like 20. So yeah, doing anything that aren't actually physical is just hard now.
And there's also way more content out there. Like a lot of people move to online content production. Like I don't know how it's for you, but I can't even keep up with all the content that's currently available on the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have to drop in like roughly 15 minutes here, so we will finish definitely on time. I mean, you obviously can continue. Okay, another one on Potato Head, Josh.
Yeah, that's me. So I put in there, one thing I wanted to mention is, you know, we've been working on this. I've been working on this a lot the past 6 months. Maybe there's some opportunity. I've seen a lot of initiatives that are very similar. The Open GitOps one, the Observe KNS one, which are both oriented around creating kind of a resilient, reusable demo environment to show, patterns for observability. In the case of Observe KNS, Open GitOps is that, and they're both kind of not. I mean, there's nothing there for either of them at this point. So, I kind of have chimed in on the Observe KNS stuff, like, hey, Potato Head would be great. Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of bring that up, if we can encourage them, if they're interested, obviously. But yeah. The next thing is that we are continuing to adopt microservices with the operator framework example, which Daniel, wasn't you, but I asked a couple of folks on your team, and they reviewed that. So I merged that. Catch is out there, still needs a review. I'm hoping to work on Argo CD soon. Those are both still open, Argo CD and Captain. I did add a service discovery scenario, which is kind of towards what we're thinking about with co-op delivery. Like, how do you get infrastructure and other service discovery is a little bit not quite this, but it's the first one I'm thinking towards, like, how do we combine bits of infrastructure with app logic? I still want to work on the database one. I actually needed this service discovery one because my idea for the database or authentication one was to have a different part show up, based on your session or something, and cache the session in Redis. So yeah, that's why I did the service discovery early. But yeah, feedback on that, like that, I'm thinking of that as integration. Like, we have a bunch of delivery scenarios, but now we're kind of like, how do we deliver and integrate with the rest of your environment, which is kind of what co-op delivery is about. Maybe we should call it integration, app integration. And then the last thing, I put a note there, which is that there's now a workflow, because I just wanted us to have it, like, to be able to tag the repo and the images kind of asynchronously pretty easily, because there's a workflow into the tags the repo for every push to master, but I don't know if that's the best for the long term. So now we have that. At least you could tag the repo manually, could tag images, could even tag it latest. That actually happened to me. I don't think it got tagged latest, the last one. Yeah, and that's it. We could use more, pitch to everybody. We need to migrate Argo CD and Captain, I think, are the most important to get migrated to the microservices. Add more scenarios, please. And yeah, there's a couple open issues actually on, like, enhancements. So take a look at those. Somebody opened them this week.
Did we tag them as good first issues? Because I know that a lot of people usually reach out and looking for open source projects that they can contribute to. Also, like, I think we can't really apply for Google Summer of Code because we're not an official project, and it's too late now anyways. But it would be a perfect example to get some of the academic part in, because, like, for students, it would be a great example, like getting open telemetry instrumentation, which gets you to the Observe K8s area as well. And I mean, just having maybe a shareable post, again, it's a shareable short blog post on Potato Head available.
Yeah, that would be a nice thing. Yeah,
I was thinking of getting a T-shirt for KubeCon with the Potato Head on it, and learn Kubernetes with the Potato Heads. So that might also create. I mean, it sounds simple, but people eventually get interested by wearing this funny T-shirt, and like, everybody likes the idea.
Yeah,
yeah,
Josh,
it seems like we're all coming to it.
Sorry to cut you off. I just want to say, I think it's a cool project. I started looking at it. I shared it with some folks on my team, and I think as we develop, like a new system for delivering content, we should definitely be mindful of the existing solutions, which I think your repo does a great job of capturing. So there's a great deal of content there for us to consume and think about, and yeah, I think it's cool.
And I think it's also a nice GitOps demo, especially like the services that are slower than the old ones, where you could like really show is there like an automated A/B testing, automated rollback scenario in there that you could play around. And maybe also for you, Daniel, we have an operator example in there that is based on a Helm chart for historic reasons, more or less. I think it's usually not the way you would want to write an operator, but it just shows that even with an operator, you can package the complexity of a Helm chart into an operator and expose it in a simpler possible way. So that would, I think, also make a nice example there.
Yeah, no, that's cool. We have this is one thing we're working on, is like new packaging format for operators. I think, you know, in the LLM world, we have this concept of like, it's called the registry v1 bundle, which is essentially a container image, contains manifest directory with like a CSV and stuff like that in it. That format has, it works, but it's proven a little bit challenging. So in the newer APIs, we're moving to more of just a plain manifest format, where you can just provide raw Kubernetes manifests and those get applied. And we don't support templating or anything like that yet, but like obviously Helm lets you do that. But yeah, it would be really interesting to, if once we stabilize on sort of the structure for the newer format, maybe we can contribute that to the project, to the potato head, once it becomes more stable.
Yeah, as I mentioned to some Reddit people, that it might be a nice example even for the existing operator framework, because at least when I was looking at it a while ago, the standard example was launching an Nginx with the operator framework standard example. Well, here would have like an actual microservice multi-component application that might be more interesting.
Yeah, it's more an app specific, like what you might use to deploy your own app versus some third-party COTS.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't show the power of the operator framework per se, because I could easily install an Nginx the regular way without using an operator. I mean, it's not actually harder or easier.
I actually have been thinking of this as like the apps. This is the GitOps. If you want your own bespoke GitOps, you write an operator for your app. That's like an app specific GitOps operator. To what I keep saying, operators and GitOps kind of being flip sides of the same coin.
Yeah, given that I have to drop like last topic, which is still mine here, the App-Delivery conference, so I was a bit too optimistic, which Amy also warned me to be, but I still tried to be too optimistic. So, and there was some weird issue going on there as well. Like I had the issue that my corporate email client was swallowing all of my emails from the CNCF as spam. So I didn't get any updates on this topic. So this is really like my fault. Kind of still blaming it on some tooling that I'm using. Anyways, it won't happen for KubeCon EU. We could still plan a get together in one or the other way for everybody who's going to be there. I mean, there's going to be plenty of places to do it. But for North America, I really want to kick off the planning that we have on App-Delivery Day for North America. And we have more than enough time now planning this out. So I think it's September, October this year, to really have something there around app delivery. I think we just got, and we can talk to like lots of other people who can provide us input, like the security team is doing their Day Zero event. Tag Network is doing that Day Zero event. So there's lots of them doing their Day Zero events where we can like go for advice, how they make it work, what they learned out of it, and so forth. So this is definitely something that we can drive forward right now. So it would have been nice at EU, but definitely for the end of the for fall, we should be working on making this actually work. All right. Any other topics anybody wants to bring up today? Because otherwise I would close like 5 minutes early, simply because I have to jump on another call in 5 minutes. I mean, you're free to continue here, obviously, but I'll have to drop ahead of time.
I don't know if Scott was going to jump in and talk about the Ghettos working group, but yeah, we can do that and then next time anyway, right?
Yeah, we can do this next time. Also, what I put in there might be actually 2 project presentations for the next meeting that I still need to confirm. First one is Mist.io, who's applied for a project that's applied for Sandbox. And the second one would be open feature, which is also sandbox project. So you might have getting into this rhythm of having projects again.
Would it be overkill to have both of them in the same, or?
Would it be an overkill to have both of them? Let's have them in there right now. Usually we make a presentation 20 minutes. Let's see who of them now actually really confirms for the next meeting. Otherwise, we just move them up the stack for one of the meetings.
Folks, one other thing before I this conveyor. We had said a while ago that we would open an issue for them in the Tag App-Delivery repo, at least to track the conversations. Can we do that? I didn't want to do it. I think maybe Jennifer should do it, or Eloise, if you think you should do it.
Let me check back with the TUC what the latest status is, because they had already a vote on conveyor. They were at least massively discussing it, but I can ask Dims what the final take on conveyor actually was.
Yeah, I'm just saying, look, the last time Amy came into our meeting in beginning of February, and we said that, you know, we'd open it, that's what I was just going from. So
yeah, but I'll get some more background information where we stand, where the TUC stands on conveyor right now.
Okay.
And what the takeaway was. So let me ask them what their take was. No, I just know it was a very lengthy discussion where I then had to drop on that meeting, but I'll ask them what the TUC's opinion is. I'll take it from there. Yeah, and also like for you, Daniel, if you want to bring up a specific topic, I mean, this team has seen conveyor as a whole, but if you want to bring in specific topics, feel free to do so as part of the agenda. All right, and otherwise I would adjourn the meeting for today. Wish everybody of you a good rest of your day or a good evening, depending on where you are. And then see you in 2 weeks from now.
Thanks, y'all.
see you.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.